listen to me as I slow it down. Can't tell yours if you want it. Enjoy the ride, 'cause those ups and those downs is what makes it worth it.
Hey everyone, Coach Nicole here. I wanted to hop on here and chat about macro tracking, just because this is a very popular dieting method that I use with a lot of my clients. So I just wanted to dive deeper into it. I personally use macro tracking myself when I diet, and I really like it because of the flexibility it allows you. You're just gonna have a lot more variety of food choices. You can change up your foods every day, and in the long run, it doesn't really make you feel like you're dieting then. And one last thing I'm gonna say about why I like macro tracking is because it starts to teach you good nutritional habits, and it teaches you how to understand what you're consuming. Yes, one part of a diet is to lose weight, but another part of a diet is to educate yourself on how you should be eating after you're done with that diet as well. Because you can be super successful with that diet, lose a whole bunch of weight, but if you didn't actually teach yourself how to be aware of what you're eating and how to pick out the proper foods, once you get off of that diet, you're just gonna gain it back, and it's just gonna be this roller coaster. Versus using this macro tracking method, you're actually learning about the food you're putting in your system, and you're just gaining a lot more skills when it comes to nutrition. But with macro tracking, to see the best results, we need to make sure that we're doing it efficiently and we're doing it accurately as well. So this is gonna be what this video is for. We're gonna talk about, first of all, what is macro tracking, what apps to use, how to pick out food, how to get food to fit exactly in your ranges, basically covering just everything macro tracking. But I'm gonna stop chatting about that. We're just gonna dive right into how to macro track. So on the screen right here, I'm gonna pop up what it shows on my phone. That way you can see exactly what I'm seeing. So first thing is going to be what macro tracking app I use. I use Chronometer. I have used MyFitnessPal in the past, such a huge popular app. The biggest issue I get with that app though is actually a couple things. One, they took away the barcode scanner, so that makes entering food a lot harder. Two, you can't enter in your custom macros. And three, there's a lot of inaccurate logs. If you type in one food item, it's gonna come up with 1,000 choices, and all their macros are gonna be different. So using Chronometer, it's just a lot more accurate. You get a lot more features with it as well. So it's just this orange little apple here. We're gonna click on it. So first, let's talk about what is macro tracking. Macro tracking stands for macronutrient tracking. Macronutrient means big nutrients. You have 3 big nutrients in your diet. You have protein, you have carbs, and you have fats. So those are gonna be our 3 ranges we're trying to hit, along with a calorie goal. So personally for me right now, my calories is 1,720. I'm hitting 140 grams of protein, I'm hitting 200 carb and 40 fat. Now keep in mind, everyone's macros are going to be different. Don't try to use my macros because I'm gonna be in a totally different situation than what you're in. The amount of macros and your amount of calories should line up. So for every gram of protein, it's gonna be 4 calories. For every gram of carbs, it's gonna be 4 calories. And for every gram of fat, it's going to be 9 calories. So if I were to do the math, if I would take 140 plus 200, so that's 340. If I would times that by 4, because I said there's 4 calories in every gram, and then I would add in 40 times 9, because I said there's 9 calories per gram of fat, and I would add those two together, that would equal the 1,720 calories. But you should not have to worry about that. If you have a coach, they'll give you all of those ranges so you don't have to do that math. So, first thing we need to understand is how our basic meals should be structured. So we know that we should be having at least 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner. And within those meals, we want to make sure that we're having a portion of protein, we're having a portion of carbs, and we are also having a vegetable or fruit. And then outside of those 3 meals, we can have our snacks, or like a pre-workout snack specifically. But now that we know what we're going for, we can start plugging stuff into the app. So first tip of the day is to track your macros ahead of time. So if you have time in the morning, sit down and track all your macros for the day. If you need to do it the night before, just do it ahead of time, because if you start eating and then at the end of the day you have these exact parameters or macros that you need to fit, it's gonna be very difficult. Versus if you can bounce around throughout your different meals and adjust it as you go, it's gonna make it so much more simple. When you're picking out foods, we typically want foods that are going to be all natural, they're gonna be unprocessed, and if you can get foods that have very simple ingredient labels, it's gonna be better. You can add in a little bit of like fun foods throughout the day. We just want our biggest portion of our macros coming from those clean, healthy, natural sources. And I'll kind of dive a little bit into that once we actually start logging stuff. But I'm always keeping that in the back of my head. So when I'm tracking macros, I know I'm gonna have my 3 meals, I know I'm gonna have some snacks, but I also want to fit in specific foods. So if I wanna fit in specific foods, so let's say I know I have been craving protein banana bread. I just made that yesterday. And I know I want to make sure that I fit that in. That's gonna be one of the first things I'm gonna track. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna track my protein banana bread. And also on here on the app, you can add in your custom recipes and custom foods. So like for example, I custom put this in because this is a recipe that I made myself offline, which if you want this recipe, I would highly, highly recommend it. Go to my Facebook group, I'll leave it down in the description below, and there's a lot of good information in there. So I'm just gonna have 1 slice of it. So you can see here up top, it says amount. 1 serving slice is 1/8 of the loaf. And then it shows your macros down below. So it's gonna be 90 calories with 5 grams of protein, 11 carb, and 3 fat. So I'm gonna go ahead and push add to diary, and that is in my log. I also know that I really wanna try to get a pork chop to fit in my macros because I made pork chops yesterday and I have 1 left over and I want to use it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put that in the app right now. So pork chop, I know it's a center cut, which the more specific you can be with what type of meat or food you're eating, the better. So if you are eating a food that has like a specific brand, make sure you put it in there because each brand is gonna be different. This is just meat, so there's no specific brand. Just make sure you're typing in what type of meat it is. So technically this is a bone-in pork chop, but I'm cutting out the bone and I'm not weighing it, so I'd rather just weigh it boneless because it's gonna be way more accurate. So I am not 100% sure how much pork chop is left. I know it's going to be a little bit more than 5 ounces. So I'm gonna start by putting in 5.5 ounces. If I really wanted to make sure that I'm able to eat the whole pork chop, I would go and weigh it out ahead of time. But if I need to throw away like a 1/2 ounce or something, that's totally fine. But I'm gonna go ahead and track that, and you can see that macros below. So those are really the 2 I call like non-negotiables. I really want to make sure that fits into my macros. So now I can start just building out everything around it. So I'm going to start with breakfast. So I know that I really want to make sure that I hit my protein goal. Hitting your protein goal is where a lot of people struggle. So that's going to be my first main focus of when I'm putting stuff in the app. So I know egg whites are going to be a fantastic option for protein in the morning. You can see here for 5 ounces of egg whites, it's going to be 15.5 grams, 1 gram of carb, and then 0.2 fat. So the reason why I use egg whites is because it's very low in fat. And you can see if I go back, I'm already using 15 grams of protein out of my 40-gram goal. So I'm already pretty high on that range. So I'm gonna be sticking and picking more lean protein, so I'm not gonna go over my fat goal in the end. So let's go back, type in egg whites. I'm gonna say 6 ounces because I'm gonna make sure that I'm getting enough protein in. And then I can just click it and I can drag that to the top. Another thing that I love to have for protein in the morning is turkey sausage. I use the Butterball brand. So you gotta be careful that you have the right serving size. So you can see serving size here says 3 links. I'm only gonna be having 2 links. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm putting in, that would be a 2/3 serving size, which is equivalent to 0.67, or you can just do 0.66666. So I'm gonna go ahead, add that, and I'm gonna drag it up so then all of my breakfast foods are combined together. I am also really craving a bagel. So I know that I need carbs in my breakfast. So I'm gonna have a bagel today. I'm gonna have an onion bagel because that's the best type of bagel there is. You can see 1 bagel, 230 calories. We're gonna add that to my diary. Let's move that up. Okay, I'm gonna have a little bit of Greek yogurt as well, just because I want a little bit more protein, and I have just been absolutely loving Greek yogurt and strawberries together in the morning, and I really want that. So I'm going to click this. Always make sure you look at the nutrition label before you enter it. If I go back, technically the yogurt I'm using is a vanilla flavor, but if I click on this first one, it says it's 114 calories, and this is not accurate to what I have. Versus if I click on the strawberry flavor, now it's accurate to what the nutrition label says to what I have. So technically it's a different flavor, but the macros are the same, and that's ultimately what matters when we're tracking macros. So adding that to the diary, and like I said, I like to have strawberries with that, so I'm gonna go ahead and add in some strawberries, and I'll have 175 grams because that's about a good serving size of that. So I'm gonna move this up so it's all together. And then from there, I pretty much got a complete breakfast meal. I have my protein, I have my carb, and then I have my fruit. All of those are gonna be very healthy, very natural ingredients. It's nothing really too crazy. I'm just taking a whole bunch of simple ingredients and combining them together. In my eggs, I like to add a little bit of onions or a little bit of mushrooms, but it's such a tiny amount. I can sit there and add 1 mushroom to my macros, but it's not gonna make a difference. It's literally gonna be like 3 calories, so I don't even put that in there, to be honest. Okay, but moving on, we are going to now focus on lunch. So I'm actually gonna have that pork chop for lunch. So I'm gonna move that up. So that is my protein. Now I need to think about my vegetable, which I'm just gonna have some simple broccoli. We'll say 100 grams because that's a good serving of it, and I'm gonna put that in there. Okay, so then we need a carb with that as well. So I'm gonna put in some jasmine rice. Okay, we'll just say 100 grams for now. We can always change it if needed. I'm gonna move that up. Okay, so now let's think about dinner. So I actually have some turkey sausage, chicken sausage brats on FOD, and I want that for dinner. So I'm gonna type in the chicken sausage. I don't think it's gonna pop up. I'm gonna need the brand. So what we're gonna do, we are gonna scan the label. Let me go get the food. So on the app up top, there is a little barcode scanner. We're just gonna click that barcode scanner, and then I have this SE Grocers Naturally Better, no antibiotic, all natural, green onion, chicken, sausage. This stuff is freaking amazing. So I'm just going to scan that nutrition label, and it pops up on there. So super easy, super simple, it's quick. So for 2 of those sausages, it's 220 calories. I'm gonna go ahead and track that. Now, let's get back to where we were. Okay, so I know with those chicken sausages, I'm gonna want some type of bread to kind of like act as a bun. I know I'm not gonna be able to have like a legitimate bun because I'm not gonna have enough carbs, but I can easily use 2 slices of bread. So we're gonna look up Sara Lee, whole wheat bread, 2 slices. I'm gonna go ahead and add that. So when it comes to bread, yes, you can have bread. Bread is not bad for you. If you're picking bread, just make sure you're using whole grains. That's just gonna be more nutrients for you. It's gonna be easier to digest, and it's just gonna be healthier. Now, I know that I have my protein for dinner, I have my carb for dinner, I am going to need my vegetable. So, easy again, I can just type in broccoli. Actually, I could theoretically type in broccoli, but I have been obsessed with this riced cauliflower with a little bit of garlic that I've been buying at the grocery store. It just comes in a frozen pack. You just throw it in a microwave, super simple. So I actually want that with it. Let's see if I can find it. Actually, it might be in my favorites. It is in my favorites. That is a key. If you have a food item that you use a lot, you can click on this little star up top here, right where it says the name, and that's gonna favorite it, so it's gonna be super simple to find it again. So a serving size is a 1/2 cup. I typically like to eat a little bit of a bigger portion size for this, so I'm going to put 1.5 cups. I can adjust it later if needed. Okay, so let's review where we're at. I have my dinner, I have my lunch, and I have my breakfast. So I do need stuff for my pre-workout meal. So pre-workout meal, I know it's gonna be primarily carbs because that's what's gonna give me the most energy in the gym. So I'm already gonna be having my protein banana bread grouped into my pre-workout meal / snack. So that gives me a little bit of carbs, but I'm gonna need more than just 11 grams of carbs because that's not very much. So another easy thing to use is rice cakes. So I'm gonna go ahead and type in rice cakes. Make sure you type in the flavor because each rice cake is going to be different. I'm just gonna say 2 for now. Looking up top, I still have plenty of carbs to use. So I am gonna go ahead and type in some jelly. Again, make sure you type in the brand because it's gonna make a difference. Smucker's Natural. And you can kind of see a trend here. All of this is natural foods. So technically jelly is just mashed up fruit. Might have a little bit of added extra sugar to it, but you can get like the natural or the no sugar added type, and it will be a little bit better for you then. So, super simple, just straight up carbs. So this is easy for me to get that carb count up, and it's gonna be really good for that pre-workout because it's gonna digest and hit the bloodstream fast. So, gonna go ahead and add that. I'm gonna move this up so everything is in order. Okay, looking at the macros. So I am lower on protein. I need more protein. So at this point, I could go back to where my protein is throughout the day and just up the calories or up the amount of it. And I do have some fat left over. So if I really wanted to go to the pork chop and make that like 6 ounces, because I know that has fat in it as well, that would probably fill my fat count and it would up my protein. So I could do that, but I have been loving Built protein bars, and I actually just got some new ones in yesterday, and I want to try a new flavor. So I'm gonna add that to my macros. So I'm gonna go grab a bar. What flavor do I want today? I'm gonna try the carrot cake. That's a new one. So I am just going to scan the barcode. I'm gonna double check the macros, make sure that they are accurate. Yes, they are. Okay, I'm gonna add that to my diary. So I'm gonna have that carrot cake protein bar after my breakfast. I'm gonna put that right there. Okay, so you can see now that I added that protein bar to my macros, it did bump me over in protein. Bumped me a little over in carbs as well, and I am pretty much there for fat. I'm literally 0.8 off on a gram, which is fine. So I am going to adjust the protein. So I don't want to pick a protein that's also going to affect my fat, because that's going to drop my fat even lower. So I'm going to take my egg whites, because I know that that is very low fat. I'm going to change that to, let's say, 4 ounces. And that's good. That's 141.7. So let's drop the carbs a little bit, because I'm sure that will also drop just a hair bit of protein. So let's look at what I have for carbs. I could drop the strawberries, because that's a carb. Jasmine rice is a carb. I don't really want to change my carbs that I'm using post or pre-workout, because I want to make sure that that's there, because I'm actually using that for the gym. I'd much rather take carbs out somewhere else. So really, I can use my strawberries, I can use my jasmine rice, or I have my whole wheat bread at the end of the day. So this brings me to another good point. When you're tracking macros, it's really good to use foods that are very adjustable, meaning you can honestly just easily adjust them. So like, for example, jasmine rice is a very adjustable food, because I can easily drop that down to 90 grams or 87 grams if I need to, versus looking at the whole wheat bread, you can really only drop that down by slice. You're not gonna have 1 3/4 a slice of bread. That just doesn't make any sense. So it's not super adjustable. So I try to keep those like not adjustable foods to a minimum in my macros. So I'm gonna go to the jasmine rice. I'm just barely over in carbs, so let's see if I have 95 grams, how that looks. So it's still a little over, so I'm gonna bump that down to 90. Still too much, so I'm gonna bump that to 85. Okay, so it'd really be probably around like 70 grams of rice, which isn't too much. So I could just suck it up and have a little bit of rice, or we can pivot. What I'm gonna do for pivoting, I know that I'm a little under in fat, and this cauliflower is carbs and a little bit of fat as well. So what I am going to do, I'm actually going to take that cauliflower, I'm going to move that up, and I'm going to have that for my lunch instead of that rice. And I'm actually going to bump this up to 2 servings. So now my fat is completely hit, my protein is good, I'm just a little under in carbs. So I technically need around like 16, 17 grams. And if I look up top, I can see how that's equivalent in calories. So what I am going to do, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add in broccoli for dinner, just because I took out my cauliflower, which was my veggies, and I still want to make sure I'm getting veggies in that meal, so I'm just going to substitute that for a different type. Okay, so now that brings me around like 12 grams of carbs. So at this point, I could up my carbs in something I'm having, so I could have more strawberries. That would up my carbs. If I was having like oatmeal instead of my bagel, I could just up my oatmeal. Again, that's where having adjustable things come in handy. I could easily up my rice cakes or even my jelly as well. So let's try that. Let's look at a rice cake. So rice cake is about like 11 grams of carbs. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually change that to 3 rice cakes. So you can see that pretty much brings it up to my carb count. It just slightly knocked me over in my protein, but I can easily come up top and I can change my eggs to 3 ounces now, and that's gonna be good. Okay, so if we look at our macros, that brings our daily total to 140.8 grams of protein, 199.6 grams of carbs, and 40.5 fat. So that is pretty much spot on. That's a very solid, perfect day. Now, one thing I want to point out, if we look up top at the calories, it says that I've only tracked 1,688 out of my 1,720, but it shows below that I hit all my macros. And I know that those macros add up to that calorie range. So why is it reflecting that? Anytime this happens, that means something that I logged in here, the macros were not exact to the calorie range. So anytime you're tracking something, maybe like low carb or like it has net calories, that can kind of skew things. So if I really wanted to be picky, I could go through all of my logs and do the math and figure out, okay, which one is not adding up correctly. How I would do the math is how I did it previously, where you would take your grams of protein, times it by 4, you would take your grams of carbs and times it by 4 because each gram is 4 calories, and then you would take every gram of fat and times that by 9 because each gram of fat is 9 calories, and then you could reflect. But that is way too much math. So I'm just gonna keep that in my head that anytime that I use these logs, I'm just gonna have to double check them next time and see. When it comes to situations like this, it's always good to go by the macro count and then just be under in calories for the day. More than likely, I'm probably not under in calories. It's just that there was just some inconsistencies when people were typing in the amount of calories. Which, one last note, I want to touch a little bit more on those fun foods. So those fun foods is like the upside of tracking macros because you can fit those in there. But we want to make sure that it's just off to the side of our main meals. When we're picking out our fun foods, we want to make sure that they are unprocessed. We want to make sure they're still as natural as possible. So for a good example, my whole snack drawer is full of these types of foods. So I'm going to show you just a couple of them that I have. So one type of food that I love are these bean chips. They taste absolutely delicious, but they're literally just beans. They have a couple other stuff added to them, but if you look on the nutrition label, it is super simple, and I can pretty much read all of these ingredients and know what they are. That is a huge sign that it is an okay food to have when you understand everything on the nutrition label. This is what I use when I'm wanting a sweet treat. So again, if we look on the back of this nutrition label, it is literally just honey, dark chocolate, and peppermint oil. It is that simple. And this is only 40 calories per piece. So if I wanted just a little bit of a treat, I can track that in my macros. I can make it fit. I would basically use this like that protein bread that I had earlier today. How I right away threw that protein bread in my macro app, I would just right away throw this in my macro app and adjust my calories around it. Otherwise, last thing I'm gonna show is these from the ground up, all natural cauliflower crackers. This is like a healthy version of Cheez-Its. Again, if we look at the nutrition label, it is very simple ingredients. Like I said, there's always healthier alternatives. So would I fit all of that in my macros on one day? No, I would try to pick like 1, maybe 2 fun foods to fit in my macros, and the rest are gonna be filled in with natural foods. But all in all, that is how you macro track your food. Do it ahead of time. Track your protein first so you make sure that you're getting that in throughout the day. Track your non-negotiable foods first. Make sure you have your vegetable or fruit in each meal. And then try to sprinkle in just a little bit of those fun foods. So the majority of my foods are from whole, natural sources. So that is going to be everything for today. If you are one of my clients and I'm sending you this video, I can also send you a PDF that will have a food list showing you good examples of proteins, good example of carbs, and good example of fats. Because if you are completely new to tracking macros, you might not be able to just know what type of food would fit within a category. When I was tracking macros, if I needed carbs, I could list 5 different foods that I knew off the top of my head would fit within that range. If you're not quite there yet, you can use that list and help you guide and pick foods off of what category you're looking for. But that is everything. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you aren't a client and you would like to become one, there is a link down below where you can apply. But otherwise, I will talk to you guys later.
Listen to me as I slow